It is time for us to have a conversation with Dr. Lolu Oshinowo. Now, he is a founding medical director along with 3 other directors of the renowned Premier Specialist Medical Center, Victoria Island and Lekki branches. As a Leeds trained obstetrics and gynecologist and international fellow of Royal College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, he is also a vaginoplasty surgeon. Now, when you hear the vagina, everyone goes, like it's such an incredible subject, but it's a pleasure to have you here, sir. It's a pleasure.
It's a pleasure to be with you too.
Now, when we talk about vaginoplasty, it's usually discussed in hush-hush terms because everything that has to do with the private parts is usually topic for behind closed doors, so to speak. So how has it been working in an industry that deals with this?
It can be quite difficult because a lot of people that have problems with the vagina don't want to discuss it. Even sometimes you find that couples, the husband especially, will not want to say anything about it because most of the time the problem could have been due to the natural vaginal childbirth. And what happens is the knowledge is after every delivery, you do some exercise to firm up the muscles of the pelvic wall. But sometimes there could have been a leftover damage that wasn't properly repaired during the delivery. The common ones that you could have that people talk about readily about is when you have a leakage from the bladder into the vaginal wall, which is called vesico-vaginal fistula, or from the posterior wall to the vagina. But the laxity in a lot of women don't come into existence until much later in life.
Oh, wow.
When the bladder, especially in front, is very weak, and for a lot of people, they can't afford to have a full bladder during discussion without wanting to go and empty their bladder. And it's always a problem when they cough or sneeze because they leak urine. And sometimes it can really get very bad that you don't have a good control of your bladder when your bladder is full.
Which is very embarrassing.
Yeah, it is very embarrassing. And for most people, when they eventually come around to it to have the repair, the difference is always very unimaginable to both the woman and the husband. So the word vaginoplasty sounds like plastic surgery, but the idea is to tighten up, firm up the vaginal wall, and for most of them, it makes them a virgin, so to speak.
Now, before we go into the nitty-gritty of vaginoplasty, is it advisable to have all your children before doing it, or it's okay to do it after each child?
Oh, no, I mean, it's a procedure that once it's done and you get pregnant again, your next delivery is advisable to be a cesarean section.
Why is that?
Because the damage that you had initially will definitely reoccur.
Okay, okay.
And it might be difficult to have a second chance in getting a good repair.
Oh, wow. Okay, okay. So now let's talk about vaginoplasty itself. What does it entail?
Well, anatomically, in the pelvis of a woman, in front you have the bladder, and in the middle part is the vagina, and the posterior part is the rectum, and then the anus. And there are muscles that are used that come on both sides of the pelvic wall that go around the vagina to the front, and some of them go around the bladder, especially the bladder neck. When I said when some women cough or sneeze and they lose urine, there's like a sling muscle that is supposed to come into action when you cough or sneeze that tightens the urethra. Is very weak.
Okay.
And the idea of the repair, the plastic surgery I talk of, is to try and firm up the sling muscle so that when you cough or sneeze, it pulls on the urethra, and then it keeps the urine from being forced out of the urethral opening.
Oh, so that's what it entails.
Yeah, it is. It entails that. And then in doing that, you see, for a lot of women, there are some muscles, be it unconsciously they use during the act of making love. Those muscles in a lot of people are weak because they have been stretched or overstretched during the delivery. And the plastic surgery that you do is to firm up those muscles and tighten up the vagina.
Now, I'm always interested in the influx of such incidents, especially for medical practitioners. You know, so many people come for different needs and all. So I'm just wondering, how frequent is this? Is this a common occurrence for women, or it happens to maybe 1 in 10 or 1 in 1,000 women?
Well, this is a condition that people don't talk about. In this country, statistics is very difficult because everybody accepts that when you have certain problems where you just get on with it, you don't have choice, there's nothing you can do about it. But occasionally, when women discuss, they talk about it, and for some reasons, some people have had to have the surgery done because, not because they wanted to just firm up, but because they have problem with their bladder. And occasionally, the problem could be with the back passage because the muscle that controls the anus during childbirth sometimes could be damaged.
Oh boy.
And then it makes the woman loses physics.
The same way with the
the same
as
way,
well.
because of the sphincter of the anus. And all this, when it's repaired, you don't just repair such things in isolation. You can as well just repair the whole length of the vaginal wall.
As well. So it's
And
like a plus.
It's like a plus. And it's after this surgery is done that people know the advantage or what they really gain from it. But what I've always thought is the women group can talk about it.
Okay.
And it's only when you talk about it that you feel that there's a freedom in exchanging ideas. And from my experience, when people come, they don't want to. They feel, oh, it's something, in fact, they don't talk directly. They talk around it. But it takes the doctor to really zero in on what the patient wants. And for example, a lot of women, when they have the surgeries done, they don't tell their husbands. They just say, well, they have problem with their bladder work or something is coming out of the vagina, which is uterovaginal prolapse. So in the process of repairing that, and interestingly, you have about 4 weeks or 6 weeks of not making love. Interestingly, without the husband saying much, we notice a big difference. It's like you go back to the beginning of your married life.
Oh, wow. Before the children came in.
Yeah.
So would you say it's advisable for women who have had children to consider getting a vaginoplasty?
Well, it depends. It depends on how active they are.
Okay.
Yeah, because if you don't really have a problem, if you don't have weakness of the bladder or something coming out of the vagina, you don't need to do it. But then for some reason, you can put it as, why do people want to change the shape of their nose? Why do they want to do some Botox on their face? It's the same reason, because people know that the way they enjoy making love is totally different from what it used to be before they start having children. Yeah. They don't want to complain about it. Certainly men don't complain about it, but they notice it. It's only when the woman feels strongly about it and they get the surgery done that they realize
that there's a difference.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, so there are two things I'd like to find out. But first, let me mention this. The first one is, would you recommend it for a young single lady? Maybe she has decided that I'm going to have all my children via cesarean. and she's about to get married and decides to go for the vaginoplasty, perhaps because of, well, let me put it modestly, a rather active sex life before marriage. Would you recommend it?
Oh, no, I mean, there's no need for it because if there's no damage, there's no need for repair. If that vagina is not being stretched through the process of natural vaginal childbirth,
There is absolutely
there's no reason for it.
Okay, then the other question I was going to ask you, it sounds interesting, it sounds like something that is very important, especially for women. However, are there any side effects?
Well, I mean, the side effects could be the immediate side effect during the surgery, which can happen to any surgery. You can have bleeding and you can have infection, but all those could be put under.
So besides that, nothing. You know, sometimes you get some surgery done and you're told you have to maintain this, you need to use certain medications and all. As soon as you do the surgery, that's it for life.
Well, I mean, that's the idea.
Oh, wow.
That's the idea. Unless something happens again, I mean, you allow the natural vaginal delivery and then you have damage done to the tissues again.
Wow, this is one for the books. I'm definitely keeping a clip of this. Thank you so much for being on the show today, Dr. Oshinowo. It's been really enlightening, and I hope many women take advantage of it, especially those who are trying to keep their marriage intact.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.